everyone, Laura here from See Clear Counselling. So here we are, another week and another live video. What's happened to our sunshine? Oh, it's a rainy day here in Poole in Dorset, and I'm missing the sunshine, but it does mean with the rain that I've got work today, so it's not quite so bad being inside in the rain. Yes, it would have been nice for that sunshine to continue for a little bit longer, wouldn't it? But I'm sure it will come back. So not here in my t-shirt, having to put long sleeves on. I've even put the heating on today, which has been the first time for many weeks. So, hi to everyone, and if you've not tuned into one of my lives before, then I'm Laura, and I run my own private counselling business, See Clear Counselling, down here in Poole in Dorset. And today we're going to look at some of the positives that we can take from COVID-19. And actually we're looking at positives that we can take from all bad experiences really, and chatting about how we can look for those positives in things. So if you're coming on board, come and give me a wave, say hello. It's always nice to know that people are here joining me, and that I'm not just talking to myself. So say hello. Rain, Sarah says rain's better. I'm going back out in it after this. Okay, cool. So like the rain, so that's good. I like the rain. I like walking in the rain, as long as I've kind of wrapped up against it. But I must say that I am a sun worshipper, so I do prefer the sunshine. But whatever weather is nice. There's always something good about everything, isn't there? And that's what we're talking about today, taking the positives out of whatever experiences we have. So, let's think about how we can take positives from these bad experiences. And something that was really interesting for me right at the top of us going into this isolation was some interviews and articles and things that were published and that I saw with the two hostages, John McCarthy and Terry Waite. And they were talking about how isolation can affect people, but also talking about their own experiences. And hearing what Terry Waite spoke about really resonated with me. And I thought, if someone in that situation can look at some of the positives that happen, then absolutely we can look at the positives from bad experiences. So Terry Waite, who was one of the envoys that went over to try and release some of the hostages from Beirut, and was then obviously taken hostage himself. He actually was hostage for 1,763 days. Now that's actually nearly 5 years. And for 4 of those years, he was held in solitary confinement. And afterwards, he said of his experience, "Time in solitary confinement was one of the most formative and creative periods of my life. It brought out both the best and the worst in me. And although suffering is hard, it need not destroy," which I think is, incredible that he could have gone through all of that and come out with that kind of thought process around what happened. And he said about the experience that we're going through at the moment, he said, "During this time, we can learn to make things better, not just for ourselves, but for future generations." So, it's really difficult for us to be able to control all of the experiences that we have in life. We don't have control quite often over experiences that happen, but we do have control over how we can respond or react to those situations. And we talked a few weeks ago in one of these videos about positive psychology and being able to look for the positives in things. And it is about that mindset that we have. So our own perception of what is happening actually shapes the reality that we live within. So everyone's reality is different because of their perception of what happens. So we can all live through the same experience, but our reality of it would be different because of our perception of it. So we can look at things as challenges or as opportunities. And our engagement then with the situation that we're in will differ, because if we're looking at it from a different perspective, then how we engage with that situation is going to be different. So our first instinct always when we face a bad situation is our survival instinct. Hi Julie, thanks for joining. So our first instinct is our survival instinct, and we need to acknowledge that and accept that, you know, we are in this bad situation and we need to protect ourselves. That's, you know, an instinct that we have straight away. And we saw that happen with COVID-19. You know, if you remember the panic buying, I don't know why it was panic buying of toilet rolls precisely, but you know, people were panic buying and people were going into this survival mode and doing what they thought was the thing that would either protect them or keep them safe or be able to help them survive the situation. So maybe people felt they were going to go to the toilet a lot more, I don't know. But it was part of that survival instinct. But as we go through a bad situation, we start to change the way that we look at things. And we go through this survival, but then we go through this survive and thrive. And we have to find a way to thrive in a bad situation. So how we focus on a situation very much makes a difference to how we react. And of course, you know, listening to Terry Waite and John McCarthy's tales about, you know, how they reacted to their situations was really quite awe-inspiring. So, you know, you can perceive things in a way that if you look for the negative, so you can look at the negative side of things, and if you look for the negative, it often transpires that you find the negative. And if you look for the positive, it can transpire that you find the positive. So say, for example, an average day in lockdown, how we are in isolation. Get up, do your exercise, the kids do all their schoolwork, you have a good day working, everything's going well, you have a nice dinner, and then at the end of the evening you and your partner might have a few crosswords with each other and an argument ensues. Now, for the next few days, it may well be that you focus on that argument that happened and you forget about all of the other things and the good things that happened that day. So what you're looking at is 90% of the day being bad and the rest being, you're almost forgetting about, maybe 10% being good. So what we need to do is switch that around. So what you're actually saying is, well, 90% of the day was good and the last 10% of the day was bad. And you know, looking at that day from that different perspective. So it's that mind shift that we need to do. And if we can do that mind shift through COVID-19, then we can pick up on all of the positives and the good things that are happening and remember those afterwards to be able to utilise for ourselves. We'll want to be thinking about the bad as well, because we'll need to survive next time this happens. I mean, for example, we haven't faced anything like this since the Spanish flu back just after the First World War. But through that experience of the Spanish flu, the scientists and everything have used all of that knowledge to say that at the moment, for us to stop the spread of this flu, we need to go into isolation. And they learnt that from last time. So that was part of that survival. We have to remember those things to survive. But through our experience, we can then pick up the good things. So one of the things, first thing that we can pick up is a new appreciation of things. So, as I say, don't focus on what you can't do, but focus on what you can do. And Terry Waite said that life is an opportunity, not to waste, but to find the things that are unique to us and that we can utilise. And he said that, you know, we've got to think about now not being stuck at home, but we're staying at home safe. And one of the things that he talked about that he could appreciate from his time being held hostage was one time, and interestingly, when he was held hostage, he was in the dark, chained up, blindfolded every time someone came in the room, even though it was dark, and he was only allowed to go to the toilet once a day. And on one of those times that he went to the toilet, there was a little window that he managed to climb up and look out of. That was the first time he'd seen daylight for ages. But what struck him was there was a woman walking past with a bunch of flowers, and that was the first time that he'd seen colour for as long as he could remember. And he said the appreciation that he had of colour was just incredible, because he'd missed that colour and hadn't appreciated how much colour could mean and how much it could bring him. So that small thing gave him that appreciation of colour. So we need to look at the things that we can appreciate at the moment. You know, are we appreciating some time to relax more? Are we appreciating the time we have with our family? Are we appreciating, some of the newfound things that we've got? So look at the small things and look at what you can appreciate from what's happening. It may be that because you're used to going outside, now you go outside, do you appreciate that a little bit more and appreciate the surroundings around you? I found an awful lot of new places to explore, and I'm appreciating the place that I live a lot more because of that. So remember what you can appreciate from this situation and carry it forward. Another thing is you can build on your inner strength. And again, I'll refer back to Terry Waite because I'm very inspired by what he brought from that hostage situation. And he said that you can find abilities that you never knew you had. And Julie's saying she's looking at nature so much more. Yes, we can appreciate it so much more now that we don't see it quite as often, can't we? So it's great to be able to take those small things and appreciate them. So those new abilities, and something that Terry Waite found was his ability to write. Now, he was in isolation, in the pitch black, didn't have pen and paper. But actually he started to write his novel in his head of his experience. Never knew that he could write a book, and published a book when he was released. He found that inner strength to be able to take that good and find that new ability. Hi Denise and Sue, thanks for joining. So when we face tough times, we need to pull on our inner strength. We're all very vulnerable. And we know that there are tough times, and we know that we need to adapt and survive to those tough times. And that's where our inner strength comes in, because we can take those things that we've learnt previously and we can start to build on those through this new bad experience that's happening. So look at what your strengths are and how you can use them to help yourself through this situation, and also how you can use them to help others. And once you've found those inner strengths and you've used them to your advantage, then you can remember what strengths you found after the bad experience and continue to use them. The third one is looking at your relationships, and actually bad situations can build your relationships and strengthen them. You know, we're building a whole new community at the moment. You know, the community that we're building around us is probably very different to the community that we had before this experience. During a crisis, we are able to support others, and others are able to support us. And through this support that we see from others and that we are able to give, we kind of get this deeper sense of connection with people, because they're almost in the same situation as us, and we can kind of take from them and give to them and build this deeper connection that we have with others that are experiencing the same thing as us. We can almost find new friends through this situation. You know, look, we've got strangers who are stepping up to help others, delivering food to them, helping them through the bad times. Food banks kind of stepping up to bring extra to the extra people that need it now people are on furlough. So, you know, there's a lot of people that are bringing a lot to others. And by appreciating that, we can kind of look at our own relationships and what we can bring to those and be inspired by other people. So look at those relationships around you and how you can strengthen those. And again, remember that afterwards and continue that after the bad crisis. The next one is being able to recognise new possibilities that a bad situation can bring to you. We can find a new purpose through this situation. You know, those who face tragedy very often will find that they can find new possibilities. Think of all the charities that have been set up over the years. Many of those charities have been set up by people who have experienced tragic things themselves. You know, family members dying from cancer or other diseases, being through a tsunami or an earthquake, and charities and things are set up, and people find new ways to be able to bring things to others, and they find that strength through the experience that they had, and then are be able to understand how they can help others through a similar situation. So finding those new possibilities. Great example of that at the moment, I feel, is that lovely pensioner Tom Moore. I mean, what a fabulous man who decided that before his 100th birthday, he wanted to raise funds for the NHS. And he's kind of wrapping up all of these things that we've been talking about. You know, appreciation of what's being done. He wanted to appreciate the NHS. Through the work that he's done, he's, you know, brought new people into his life, and he's found new relationships and strengthened relationships with others. And, you know, he's found his own inner strength, you know, 100-year-old man who's doing 100 laps of his garden, and then just kept going because he found that that support he got from others helped him through that. Sarah's saying she loves him. I love him too. What an amazing man. And, you know, he's raised £28 million for the NHS now. And that's phenomenal. And probably without this situation, without this bad situation, he wouldn't have thought of doing that, and he wouldn't have put himself in that place. And he found whole new possibilities for himself. And in actual fact, he's also apparently now got a #1 single. So a 100-year-old man has, for the first time, entered the pop charts and has a #1 single. So, you know, amazing the possibilities that we can find from these bad things that happen. Yeah, as Julia's saying, an unbelievable man. How amazing. So, you know, we can look at these other people around us, and when we're in these bad situations, let's take inspiration from the others around us. Let's look at all the positive that is happening. And something else that it can build for us is maybe a spiritual change, you know. It may not be that you're religious or anything, but bad situations and crises remind us of our mortality and help us look at life and understand life in a different way. We could get new meaning, we could, to our life. We could find renewed faith, we could strengthen our faith. But what a lot of that does as well is give us hope. And through this spiritual feeling that we have, we can look at the hope for what the future may bring. And again, I'm going to refer to Terry Waite because I think that he's very inspirational in some of the messages that he gives. And he said that when he was in his solitary confinement, his hope was the hope to return home. And for us, I suppose our hope is that the hope that we return to some sort of normality that you know, we want to get back to. But I'm hoping that when we get into that new normality, that we will bring all of those things that we've learnt from this situation and carry them forward into our life thereafter. Appreciating things, building those extra strong relationships that we have. Building on our inner strengths, recognising the possibilities and learning from all those people that are giving us this now. You know, the carers, we're doing the clap for carers to appreciate them. We're really seeing what the NHS can do for us and appreciating everything that the NHS does. And I think that Boris Johnson got a whole new appreciation of the NHS through his experience and seeing what the staff can do for him. And I'm hoping that that will carry on afterwards for us as well. So let's not forget the good things that have happened through this. Let's step up to carrying them on into our life after this. And so, you know, remember that, you know, through hard times, good things can come. And there's just one more kind of little quote I want to talk about. I don't know if ever any of you have heard of the book by Viktor Frankl. So Viktor Frankl is an Austrian psychiatrist, and he was a survivor of the Holocaust. Again, a terrible experience for people to go through. And after that, he also wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning. And there's a lovely paragraph from the book which kind of talks about the suffering that we can go through, but also the joy. And this is the paragraph, just read this to you. Man's search for meaning. It is possible to practice the art of living even in a concentration camp, although suffering is omnipresent. Man's suffering is similar to the behaviour of gas. If a certain amount of gas is pumped into an empty chamber, it will fill the chamber completely, no matter how big the chamber. Thus, suffering completely fills the human soul and conscious mind, no matter if that suffering is great or little. Therefore, the size of human suffering is relative. But therefore, it also follows that a very trifling thing can cause the greatest joy. And for people that have been through these experiences and these crises, they realise that although there is suffering, also there is great joy that we can find through things. And he's saying there, even the smallest thing can bring you as much joy to fill your whole body and soul and your conscious mind, the same as the suffering. So let's not focus on the bad. We know the bad is there. We know we need that to be able to survive if these things come again. But through that survival, we then pass through and we survive and we thrive and we take that thriving on to us further. Sarah said, I used to love that book, but it always made me cry. Yeah, it's a very emotional book, but there's so much inspiration from that book, I feel, and from people that go through these crises. And Anne is saying, yes, he's been inspiring to me as well. Yes, if you haven't read Viktor Frankl, then, you know, it's a book that is very, very heartwarming and very inspiring. And I've not read yet Terry Waite's book, but I'm also thinking that that is probably a book that's well worth reading, because, researching for this has really made me think about how Terry Waite looks at life. So that's me for today. I'm really hoping that you can kind of see how taking the positives out of things can make a real difference. And if you just do that mind shift so that you can look for the positives rather than looking for the negatives, and carry those through so that you can keep those moving forward. So as always, I will put the replay of this video up on my Facebook page. I will write a blog and put that onto my website, which is www.seaclearcounselling.co.uk. And if any of you are really struggling with anxiety at the moment, I've opened up a new Facebook page for people to beat their anxiety. It's a really friendly page. We're starting to get some members, and I'm finding that it's everyone's supporting each other. So if you want some support through your anxiety, then look for Beating Anxiety Through COVID-19 and Beyond, and come and join our wonderful little group. And as always, if you're feeling things, then please do find someone to talk to. It is so important to talk to others. And so look to be able to talk to others, and, whether it be a professional or a friend, then do so. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you all for watching again, and I hope that you've been able to find something that inspires you from today and take that forward from this crisis into your life moving on. And I'll see you next Tuesday with some more tips and hints. Haven't yet thought about what I'm going to talk about, but I'll think of something and check in with you again next Tuesday. Take care everyone, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye for now.